Hello and welcome to the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security and Wyoming All Hazard Association Resource Management Task Force. This is a culmination of the Type and Kind project that the team has been working on throughout the last several months. The effort here is really to help all of you and all of us understand what resources are out there around Wyoming, organize that data, and then redisplay it in ways that can be useful to you and us at the state level and the county level. This should help us all as we move into disaster season and help us continue with our planning efforts. This video will take us through a little bit of the explainer of how we got where we are, who's been part of the team, and where we're heading in the future with this project. It will also give you some instructions on how you can interact with the tools that we put together, how you can load your resources easily, how we can then organize the resources, and then redisplay that information for you in times of crisis. Here's an instruction manual that we put together that we'll share with everyone here on the video, and you can see through some of what we're looking at. Our mission statement when we set out was to develop a user-friendly workflow to help build the definitions, inventory, deployment, and recovery of disaster resources for state and local governments in Wyoming. You can see some of our vision there, some of the folks who've worked with us on this team. Big shout out to the WOES crew, the WAHA crew, members of our FEMA integration team, Department of Health, and many other partners, both at the local level and the state level, that helped our group get to where we are today. Some of the goals you can see here are listed out, and you can read those in the document when we send it out. But ultimately, it's to capture, organize, and display the data are the three major phases. Our scope is to include as much of the response resources around the state that we can. That way, you all can see what your neighboring jurisdictions may have to help solve your problems, and we as well here can see that to help facilitate mutual aid responses both in state and across state lines. A little bit of work on what does success look like when we get done, a little bit of methodology on how you can utilize the tools, some of what we'll be able to visualize the data at the end, which we'll show you here in a minute, some important links, some suggested directions, and then we roll down into our categories. So effectively, we have mirrored our the data that we're capturing off of the FEMA resource typing library, so that way it does match at the national standard, and folks can utilize this across state lines should you choose to be part of that team, which we can answer questions on that by calling our office here at Wyoming Office of Homeland Security. Effectively, when you look at these, you can see the orange bars are the category, and that's sort of the bucket, if you picture it, a thematic bucket, and within each bucket are a series of things, equipment, facilities, personnel, and teams. There's also a few buckets that have some supplies in them. Effectively, we're looking to capture things like equipment. You can see here's a few examples, or potentially facilities that may be useful in response, as well as personnel and potentially teams. You can see there's a lot of buckets, communication, cybersecurity, damage assessment, emergency management, emergency medical, fire and hazmat, geographic information systems, incident management, law enforcement, logistics and transportation, mass care services, medical and public health, mitigation, prevention, public works, screening, search and detection, and search and rescue. So effectively, while this looks like a lot in and of itself, it really isn't nearly as bad as it seems, and we'll show you how you input the data. There's several ways you can get the data into the system. One is through the resource management survey, and we'll just do a quick example one here. We'll just call this engine 1, 2, and that could be whatever you locally would identify it as to know what it is in your county or in your fleet. You can choose from a variety of options if it belongs to a county, one of the regional emergency response teams, or a state agency. In this case, we'll say it belongs to us. And then you pick which category it is you're looking at. So we'll say in this case, we're going to look at incident management. We'll click next. It gives us the things that we can choose out of the incident management. So whether it's a qualified person, um, or a piece of equipment. In this case, we'll say it's a mobile communication or a mobile emergency operations center. You then can utilize the national typing definition. So if you happen to know what it is or can look it up through the resource typing library from the FEMA website, certainly you can do that. If you don't know, you can select unknown, or if it's something that doesn't fit into those national typing definitions, simply click type Wyoming, that's tier 2 local, and we'll say that we have one of these available. We'll click next. We'll say it belongs to WOES, We'll say that's at 5500 Bishop Boulevard in Cheyenne. That's in Wyoming. Since it belongs to the facility, as does much of the equipment around Wyoming, lat long becomes less relevant and less applicable, though certainly you can load these in for any of the items that you have that may be outside of a facility like a firehouse, a police station, or some other thing that has an address associated with it. We'll click next. We'll say that in this case, I'm the point of contact, and we use our duty officer number. That way, that would be how you would get a hold of this piece of equipment if you needed it in a hurry. We ask if it's available for EMAC. That's essentially Emergency Management Assistance Compact, and we can send it potentially from state to state. So if there is a request from, say, Colorado, you'd be able to send it. You can select yes, no, or maybe there. Same with moving it across county lines. If this is something you'd be willing to share with a neighboring jurisdiction, you can click yes. Deployment lead time, we can say that may take 2 hours to get it on the road by the time we get it hooked up to a vehicle and get a driver. I can tell how long it may be able to be gone. And so again, a couple days all the way up to a couple of weeks or other, which allows you to type in your own value. I may be able to put in notes here, such as must deploy with a WOS driver, or whatever the case may be. That would be a unique piece of information for that. I can then also select, was it federally purchased? And that can be yes, no, or maybe. If I select yes, it'll take me to another drop down of which grant paid for it, which helps you just kind of manage, and us, some of the inventory of what we've been purchasing, when and where, in a visual display, which we'll see here in a minute. In this case, I'll select no, next, and again, then I'll hit submit. This then should send you a copy of your results to your email, which will be helpful for you to track that. We also then can click see previous responses. The second way, and probably the main way folks will interact with this document and interact with getting information in, is with our bulk uploader tool. We'll look at that momentarily here. Effectively, it's a large spreadsheet, and so when you get this link, you simply hit File, make a copy, and that will save a local copy to you, or you can download it. This allows you and your team locally to really take some time and go through and put some stuff in. The value of this is it does then load in information, right? It gives you a little bit of a snapshot what's in there. It also reminds you of what you can put in which category. So let's say in this case, we're going to load in some communication equipment. The nice part about the bulk uploader is you can do a lot of copy and paste, and that's going to be very helpful in getting your stuff in. So we'll say again that we'll load up a piece of equipment here to show folks kind of what it is. We'll say it's trailer 1 is what we call it. And we're going to then come over here and use the drop downs. Anything with the orange bars on them have drop downs available. So we'll say this is a communication trailer. And we'll say it's a type 3. And we'll say we have however many of them we potentially have. I'll also then assign it to which jurisdiction. So we'll say Homeland Security. WOS, enter in our information here. And that just takes a second. The first one will be kind of the worst. We'll say this is Jim Frank, and we'll say again, our duty officer number is where we want to utilize this. So to get this out the door, we'll say call our duty officer. We'll say that yes, it is available to deploy via EMAC. Yes, it is available to deploy across county lines. These questions match the ones you just saw. We'll say that yes, it was federally purchased in this case. It takes, let's say, an hour to get it out the door, and we're good with it being gone for 2 weeks. There's no particular notes, but then it was when purchased, let's say, with SHSP 2018 as a criteria. Now, the nice part is you can select all the stuff you just put in there. So in this case, we'll come back and we'll select our whole row. And I messed up the data there, but you can see if I would have typed it in properly, again, you can kind of select the parts you need. I can then hit copy or Control C. And now I can go ahead and load in all the other data for all my other pieces of equipment. So let's say I've got these in here. We'll hit paste. And everything kind of stays the same. We'll change the names to Com Asset 2, just for point of argument here. And I can select what it is, and we'll say that's a radio cache. We'll say it's a type 2 radio cache, and we'll say we have two of them. All the rest of that data is available. Similarly, we've copied that information across, and we're just using the control and shift keys as well as control C. And now let's say I want to come in and enter something into my emergency management row. I'll go ahead and just paste it in, control V. I'll put this back on emergency management. Then you can see um, now I'm bringing in all the stuff that is under that category. So that's sort of how that works. You can kind of get a sense of what we're putting together. You load this all together, you would then send us a copy, and we'll go ahead and take your stuff and copy and paste it back into the main tool, which is where our survey data lives. And so the third way that you can get access and get information into us is if you already have it in some type of an Excel, Google Sheets, comma separated values type format, send that to us, and we're happy to go through kind of column by column, line them up, and upload the data. Once data has been uploaded, you'll be able to see it show up in the main tool, which we don't have any data in here right now. We recently deleted out some sample data to show how the system would work, but you can get a sense of all that rolling up in here. You can then sort, filter, etc., see by category. We also have the ability to run a report by county or other jurisdiction to show you essentially what's in your stable, so to speak. The other way we'll be displaying the data is visually on a map. Here's a couple examples of some old sample data to give you a sense of how this may work. This one is kind of a rudimentary map. Our working draft map for this project is a little bit more robust, and we'll show you an example of that as well. But effectively, all the data that you entered is available to be viewed here. And so this was just some sample data when we were testing the system. Again, you can see what's available. It does allow you to kind of sort and filter. Here's an example of one that what our will look like. This is some old data relating to mass care from a previous project. But effectively, we can see similar data, right? What is the shelter, who can open it, etc. This would be our data. Instead of having these drop downs, we would have the click boxes for the categories. So you'd be able to sort through and see what your closest asset is. So for example, if I wanted to see what trailers are available or what radio equipment or whatever else, I can simply click on the box. It displays it right here, what my information is. So ultimately, that is kind of an overview of our Wyoming Resource Management Project. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you can reach back out to some of the folks that were part of the project here at Wyoming Office of Homeland Security and the other partners. Again, please feel free to visit us at the Wyoming Information Sharing Platform, woes.us, or our website, hls.wyo.gov. Thank you for joining us. Let us know if you have questions, and we look forward to having you be part of our project and get this important data into our system. Thanks. Have a great day.